Something metallic is bleeding through space, and it didn't come from any place we recognize. It arrives as a headline first, then as a string of impossible measurements that force astronomers to scrub and recheck their instruments. The object, cataloged as 3I/Atlas, screams into the inner solar system at a velocity that makes headlines and makes people nervous. Over 130,000 miles per hour. At first, the reaction is the one the scientific community has trained for: excitement. Interstellar visitors are rare. We've only ever seen a handful. This could tell us about other star systems, about how planets and rocks form beyond our sun. But the excitement fractures the instant the spectra come back. The coma, that ghostly halo of gas and dust streaming off a small body as it heats, is not made of water vapor, frozen carbon compounds, or the usual cocktail of volatile ices. Instead, it is literally spitting out almost pure nickel, not mixed with its cosmic partner, iron, not embedded in meteoritic grime. Refined, separated nickel pouring away at a rate measured in pounds every second, nearly 10 pounds of nickel every tick of a clock. That is not a chemistry that forms in clouds of gas and dust. That is industry. That is purification. That is an engineered process, performed at a scale and with a precision that nothing in nature has ever shown us. When you find nickel with no iron, when you find refined metal spewing into space like a machine bleeding oil, the conversation stops being academic. A Harvard astrophysicist says, bluntly, this isn't a rock. This is manufactured. And once that seed of an idea takes root, everything else begins to be read through a different lens. More observations pour in not just ground telescopes in Chile, Hawaii, and across the planet, but space telescopes with different eyes. The James Webb Space Telescope looks in infrared and finds stats that would make planetary scientists argue into the night. The carbon dioxide to water ratio in the emissions is off the charts. 8 parts CO2 for every 1 part water. Compare that to typical comets, where CO2 percentages are measured in the single digits. This isn't even the same class of object. The chemical balance, the absence of iron, the presence of refined metal. It all reads like a payload, a capsule, or some device rather than a natural body. If the composition is cold logic pointing at design, the path this thing is taking is a line of growing alarm. Interstellar visitors normally appear and move on, tracing unpredictable, one-off arcs through our solar system. They don't appear to graze Venus, swing by Mars, and skim Jupiter in a single pass. Yet 3I/Atlas does precisely that, a mathematically improbable chain of flybys, so unlikely that the odds commentators put forward drop into the micro-percentages. It's not merely passing through. It's threading our planetary neighborhood the way a delivery drone threads mailboxes. Then there's the retrograde motion. While nearly every planet and asteroid orbits with the sun's spin, this object moves against the flow, the cosmic equivalent of driving the wrong way down a highway. And to cap it, the moment of its nearest approach to the sun, its perihelion, happens behind the star itself, out of our most powerful instrument's direct view. It is as if whoever sent it had deliberately arranged for the object's most active, volatile phase to be turned away from prying eyes. Then, quietly at first, the data begins to sing, across multiple observatories and in datasets that only the most careful analysis would reconcile. Researchers begin to notice patterns buried in the emissions. Not radio beeps at first, not language or sound, but structure in the ratios, the metallic signatures, and the chemical balances that appear to repeat, to be patterned rather than stochastic. Think of it as a message not written in waves, but in matter. A modulation encoded directly into what this object is made of and what it sheds. This is an old SETI idea revisited in a new way, that a technologically advanced sender might encode information in universal places: mathematics, chemistry, physics. If you are a species that can read spectra, those are the signs you would notice. One hypothesis rises among the speculative. This could be a von Neumann-style probe, a self-sustaining robotic scout dispatched to survey, test, or prepare. If that is true, then the nickel and the CO2 ratios, the missing iron, they may be a signal, a very physical packet of information designed to be noticed only by a civilization that has instruments sophisticated enough to decode it. In short, we weren't supposed to stumble upon this by accident. We were invited or selected. The cosmic puzzle deepens when asteroids in the main belt begin to misbehave. Teams tracking those rocks start to notice minute deviations in orbits that can't be accounted for by impacts, by solar radiation pressure, or by any known gravitational nudge. The only correlation, each asteroid had recently drifted within a few million kilometers of 3 I/Atlas's path. The scientific term that begins to circulate among European Space Agency teams is gravitational whispering. Changes so faint and subtle that they aren't obvious unless you're actively looking for them. But they're there, and they're directional. These perturbations indicate that the passing object is doing something to the space around it, not with brute force, not by slamming into things, but by shaping the gravitational environment in a way that suggests localized, precise manipulation. Suppose a small engineered device can alter the motions of nearby bodies, even slightly. In that case, the implications are profound. It could be mapping our system's gravitational topology, or, more unervingly, testing how to nudge things out of kilter. Then Webb gives the scientists another shock. Observations with MIRI, the mid-infrared instrument, reveal the object's internal heat behavior. Whereas a passive rock would cool as it recedes from the sun and warm as it approaches, 3 I/Atlas behaves like something with an internal engine. Its core temperature does not monotonically follow solar heating. Instead, in controlled patterns, the core warms in a steady, regulated way that can't be explained by friction, radioactive decay, or outgassing. It looks like a reactor, a steady, repeating thermal pulse. Observers log a pattern, a wave of emission pulsing every 51.2 minutes, and then, without warning, slipping into a faster rhythm at 17.07 minutes. That shift in cadence correlates precisely with the timing of the gravitational whispers. The coincidences pile up into a design. And then the Moon answers. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, a machine we have trusted to map and photograph the Moon in exquisite detail, detects an electromagnetic echo on the Moon's far side. The frequency structure mirrors the metallic signatures coming off 3 I/Atlas. That could mean two things. Either the object sent a signal that reached and activated something on the lunar surface, or there's already an installation on the Moon that resonated in sympathy. Either possibility is electrifying and terrifying. If there's a responder on the Moon, then whoever sent the probe once had physical presence in our neighborhood. If that's true, 3 I/Atlas isn't a scout looking for us. It's returning to a place it knows. After weeks of patterned emissions, chemical codes, thermal pulses, gravitational manipulations, the signals stop. Not fade, not sputter out. They stop. Nickel leakage ceases. Thermal fluctuations flatten. The transmissions go quiet. Initially, some specialists suspect an instrument glitch, but when independent facilities confirm the blackout, the silence takes on intent. The timing is horrifyingly neat. The emissions die 1 hour after the lunar echo is recorded. It reads like a 3-act play. Transmit, receive, fall silent. That kind of sequence is not the behavior of a natural body. It's the behavior of an intelligence engaged in an exchange. Curiosity leads us back to the recordings. With the latest AI-powered signal analysis and spectral decomposition techniques, radio astronomers peel apart earlier streams of what was once dismissed as noise. What surfaces is startling. High-frequency microbursts embedded within the metallic emission stream, ephemeral blips, invisible to conventional analysis, but unmistakable when isolated and replayed. Mapped out, these microbursts follow a recurring modulation. They aren't chaotic, they are algorithmic. They look like binary data encoded into molecular emissions. In essence, this object has been broadcasting digital information through chemical ratios and metallic signatures, a kind of molecular telegraphy that requires advanced spectroscopy to detect. It's a broadcast aimed at civilizations with a specific scientific capability, like reading a book written in a script only experts can decipher. Suddenly, the question goes from can we detect alien life to were we meant to detect this? The unease grows when someone notices a parallel in the deep space catalog. A fast radio burst, FRB 20201124A, recorded years before from a galaxy 400 million light-years away, carries a modulation structure uncannily similar to the microbursts embedded in 3I/Atlas. Two possibilities present themselves, each darker than the other. Either this is a universal protocol, a kind of cosmic lingua franca for engineered signals, or these events are connected, a network spanning light years. If the latter, then 3I/Atlas is not an isolated scout, but a node in a distributed system, a fleet or a network of hardware operating across astronomical distances. Defense analysts and space agencies, who until now thought in terms of natural threats, begin to imagine coordinated operations. The next observational puzzle is a lensing effect recorded during optical recalibration attempts. The background stars appear warped in a way similar to gravitational lensing, yet the object's mass is nowhere near enough to produce such a distortion. The effect instead looks like an engineered manipulation of electromagnetic propagation, a cloaking field, an active interference pattern bending light around the object. Even worse, the distortion pulses in time with the microbursts, like the lensing itself, are part of the signaling mechanism. This isn't camouflage by chance, it's cloaking by design, and it responds to being observed. And then the blackout, a coordinated global sensor eclipse. In a 37-second window, ground stations tracking the object in Hawaii, Chile, South Africa, Australia, and even Antarctica report simultaneous telemetry failures. Satellites lose brief contact. Instruments go dark. The planetary network of eyes blinks at once. When the cameras and radars come back online, data shows a precise change in the object's course. A deviation too small to be a natural perturbation, 0.008 degrees, and yet perfectly consistent with intentional reorientation. The implication is chilling. The object not only knows we're watching, it knows how we observe. It has methods to blind or disrupt our sensors, and then move based on the outcome. A whistleblower with alleged links to ESA leaks an internal memo the very next day. Military-grade infrared systems had picked up a thermal bloom emanating from 3I/Atlas at the moment of the blackout. The bloom lasted just 1.3 seconds, but it displayed a geometric symmetry, a hexagonal radiative pattern that contradicts everything we know about natural outgassing. Symmetry that precise implies machinery. For technical analysts with clearance, it's a confirmation of what had been whispered in scientific circles. This is an active, powered, and controlled device. At nearly the same time, magnetometers begin to register oddities. When 3I/Atlas crosses the plane of Earth's orbit, instruments observe a subtle fluctuation within the Van Allen belts, a hiccup in the magnetosphere that usually only accompanies major solar storms. But no solar storms are recorded. No flares. No solar wind spikes. The timing syncs with the object's passage, another data point that looks, again, disturbingly intentional. The possibilities that scientists float are sobering. Perhaps the object is mapping Earth's magnetic signature. Perhaps it is testing vulnerabilities in our electromagnetic shields. Perhaps it is practicing how to hide within our natural planetary signals. Humanity's own oceans then provide a new data thread. Seismic detectors in the Indian Ocean pick up an ultra-low frequency vibration. Not a quake, not an explosion, but a rhythmic pulse repeating every 12 minutes. Triangulation indicates the vibration is directional. Instead of radiating outward, it focuses upward, as if tuned to interact with objects in orbit. Hydrophones and maritime sensors hear nothing audible, but instruments register a focused silent wave, a phenomenon some analysts call the soundless impact. If a directed wave can traverse the ocean to reach orbital systems, then whatever generated it understands waveguides and coupling to a level that outstrips our own engineering. Natural sources fail to explain the pattern. Not long after, a private company's small satellite, a CubeSat, in low Earth orbit begins to act strange. Temperatures drop inside the satellite by 40 degrees in minutes. Its gyroscope loses calibration. Most alarmingly, the CubeSat begins to emit a signal it was never programmed to transmit. When that waveform is analyzed, it matches the microburst signature from 3I/Atlas. The satellite is echoing the alien signal back into space. That the object's emissions can be received, absorbed, and retransmitted by our own hardware suggests a level of compatibility or deliberate interfacing. It's as if 3I/Atlas planted a relay, or as if our devices proved porous to an information payload. The notion that a passing interstellar object might commandeer or co-opt human technology moves swiftly from speculative fiction to operational concern. Where a few weeks before there was scientific curiosity, now there is strategic paranoia. What started as a rare chance to study an interstellar visitor has become a catalog of behaviors that suggest agency. Refined metals bled into space, a chemically encoded signal, anomalous thermal and gravitational behaviors, a possible lunar responder, a global sensor blackout, and deliberate cloaking, magnetospheric disturbances, ocean-coupled pulses, and the commandeering of an Earth satellite. Even worse, many of these behaviors occur in sync. The pulses, the gravitational whispers, the lensing tremors, they match. They speak a protocol. It's impossible to overstate how much this rewrites the playbook. None of our defenses were designed for a non-terrestrial actor that can manipulate gravity, heat internally, cloak optically, and embed messages into material composition. None of our diplomatic frameworks was designed for a probe that might be testing us. And none of our contingency plans accounted for the possibility that the probe might have deployed infrastructure in our space a long time ago, as the lunar echo suggests. One conclusion arrives like winter. 3I/Atlas did not arrive by accident. It came because it had been here before. It knew where to go on the moon. It knew how to speak a chemical dialect we could read, but only if we had the right instruments. And it knows how to use our own technologies as amplifiers. The final chilling inference is this: the probe did not come to discover humanity. It came to reconnect with something it, or its senders, left behind. As of now, the object is still out there, quiet and inscrutable in the dark between planets. Its nickel shedding stopped. The thermal pulses went silent. But the signals it left behind have embedded themselves in human systems. Satellites have echoed their signature. Global instruments have recorded their fingerprints in gravity and magnetism, and in the deepest rooms of the ocean. We have, perhaps unwittingly, completed a handshake. What we do next matters. Some call for restraint, collect data, build better sensors, bring more eyes to the sky, and craft cautious protocols for contact. Others call for action, test defenses, harden satellites, and prepare for the possibility of a probe network with unknown motives. Scientists argue the lines are false. Observation itself may be an interaction. By watching, by decoding, by using our hardware to rebroadcast alien signatures, we alter the situation. For the rest of us, the public watching the slow-motion reveal of an event that could alter everything, the reaction swings between fascination and fear. There is comfort in science, measurable facts, spectra, precise timings, numerical ratios that thousands of independent minds can scrutinize. There is dread in the unknown, motive, scale, intent. And there is a story that haunts the backdrop of all this data. If something came here long ago and left an arrangement on the moon, or if the moon itself is resonant with sentinels installed by an ancient visitor, then our notions of being alone, of being the first, of being unobserved fracture. We cannot assume malice. We cannot assume benevolence either. The sequence we witnessed, the sending, the lunar echo, the quiet, and the global blackout, and the precise course change, reads like a test. A machine sends out a packet of information. A receiver answers. The sender falls silent. The sender reorients. It's a handshake protocol in hardware. That handshake may be benign, a ping to a base, a status check. Or it may be a probe validating conditions before a larger operation. Either way, the responsibility now rests with us. We have received something designed to be readable by scientists. We have already rebroadcast it through an unwitting CubeSat into our orbital commons. The next message, the next burst, could target systems we had not yet imagined as vulnerable. Or it could be an invitation. Science will keep doing what science does best: collect more data, scrutinize every spectral line, replay every microburst, compare the modulation against faraway FRBs and local transmissions, and run simulations to model the gravitational whispers. Space agencies will coordinate to harden assets and recheck telemetry. Military and civilian infrastructures will plan contingencies. Philosophers, ethicists, and theologians will wrestle with the existential implications. And the public will watch, enthralled and scared. If this report made your spine prickle, you're not alone. The scientists whose job is to remain dispassionate have felt an emotional weight to their work like never before. For some, the data is the most exciting discovery in human history, evidence of an engineered interstellar artifact. For others, it is proof of our vulnerability, that something out there knows how to reach us, to interact with our infrastructure, and possibly to return. Whatever this object is, probe, relay, scout, or something we do not yet have words for, one fact remains: it is not done with us. It came because it had been here before, and it seems to have resumed an interrupted conversation. The echo is in our satellites, in our magnetosphere, in seismic instruments, and in the very spectra that first gave it away. We have passed a test without understanding what it measured. We have completed a handshake that we did not know we were part of. If you have a theory, if you have a hunch, or if the idea of a machine visiting, testing, and talking to the moon unsettles you, then share it. Debate it. Demand transparency and better data. Ask the agencies to declassify what they can without endangering infrastructure. Encourage scientific cooperation. Whatever you feel, anger, fear, awe, channel it. This moment could be the beginning of the most consequential chapter in our species' history. Because as of now, 3I/Atlas has not come to visit randomly. It came back because it remembered where to go. It came because it had reason to reach out. And now that its message is riding the threads of our orbital systems and whispering through our planet shields, the pressing question is simple and absolute. When the reply arrives, will we know how to answer?